Mr. Secretary, will you call the next case for us?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. Going back to agenda item number 2, docket BOA 1939, located at 5122 Crestview. The applicant is Richard Pierce. The use district is the CA Conservation Agricultural District within the floodway and within the Fletcher Creek overlay. The request is a use variance from section 252 to allow partial filling of a former sand mining operation with limited construction debris, including brick, concrete, asphalt, dirt, and grubbing.
The applicant's present. Is there anybody else here in favor of the applicant? I have 2 speakers cards, one for Mr. Tyner and one for Mr. Richards. Is there anybody else here that's against this application? Very good. Have a seat, Mr. Pierce. Mr. Penzis, you'll give us a brief staff report on this.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Jeffrey Penzis, Office of Plan and Development. This is BOA 1939, located at 5122 Crestview Road. The applicant is Richard Pierce. The request is a use variance from section 2.5.2 to allow the partial filling of a former sand mining operation with limited construction debris, including brick, concrete, asphalt, dirt, and grubbing. This is just the location map. It's located northeast Memphis. So 27 public hearing notices were mailed on May 9th, 2019. The subject site is approximately 71 acres. This is the zoning map. It's currently zoned Conservation Agriculture, Floodway, Floodplain Overlay, Fletcher Creek Overlay, BOA 1783, which was related to the sand mining, I believe. Well, or no, BOA 1783 was actually related to other commercial uses that are over in the BOA 8693 was related to the sand mining, and also SUP 3413 was related to the sand. This is the FEMA map. This area indicates the floodway. This area here is indicating the 100-year floodplain, and this is the 500-year floodplain. This is the land use map. It's essentially surrounded by industrial uses and industrial office uses. This is just an aerial of the subject property, and this is a bird's eye view. This is the site plan. Essentially, the areas to be filled are located here, 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 and then there's a levee, which will be over here to prevent the backflow into the Wolf River. This is just a zoomed-in version. So this proposal is consistent with Memphis 3.0 general plan for the land use consistency decision criteria that considers existing land uses and zoning, essentially because the existing land uses that are adjacent are industrial in nature. So essentially, the conditions which were proposed were to ensure that this site comes into compliance in a timely manner, and the granting of this variance will not cause substantial detriment to the public good, nor will it substantially impair the intent and purpose of an adopted plan or code, nor will it be injurious to the neighborhood or the general welfare, and it will be in harmony with the purpose and intent of the development code. And with that, we recommend approval with conditions. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any questions right now, staff?
Vince, could you give us a little history of how this came to be mining operation, just in the background?
Yeah. So the first was this SUP 3413, and that was essentially for the vast majority of the site, other than these 2 smaller parcels. And I can't remember the actual date of that, but it's located in the staff report. It mentions when that was. I want to say, I think it was in the 70s. And then the BOA 8693 was essentially extending the sand mining operations to these two smaller parcels as well.
And Mr. Chairman, just to be clear, Mr. Penzis, both of those entitlements were for mining operations.
Correct. The BOA 1783, that was for, there was right in this little corner up here, there was a recycling facility, and blanking on what the other use was, but it was some sort of automotive related use. I think the applicant could speak more to that.
Question. The linear body of water that runs from northwest to the southeast, that is west of that track, is that the Wolf River itself?
Yes.
Applicant will like to come forward. State your name and address, please.
Scott Pierce, 296 North White Station, Memphis 317. The plan is we had the BOA taken out, the SUP, excuse me, back like I said in the 70s. Father leased the mine to a company called Texas Industries, and then in the 80s, another company bought that company out, started mining. They mined the northern part of that property and then continued to mine some rest of it. They got their MPDS, all their federal state permits, the SUP permit that we got, but through that process, all the other permits extended, state, federal, water quality, everything, the SUP did not get extended. And part of the SUP requirements, I think Jeffrey can speak to that, is we have some steep bank slopes that are like 25 feet and straight, and we're supposed to put those on a 3-to-1 slope. My intent's never been to fill the lake. We have recreational plans for the lake. Really all we're trying to do is just put the lake back on a 3-to-1 slope. It does bore the Wolf River in the 2010 or 11 major flood. Our levee blew out, and we're really supposed to, according to our MPDS, keep the levee sealed to keep the water from going in and out. I've spoken with the Conservancy, and we're actually, part of this plan, they're giving me 60 days to do it, is actually put our required levee back, which will require several yards of fill. And then we're going to give the Conservancy an easement over that and let them build a trail on it, which actually will save them several dollars in having to put a bridge in. Plus it's even less fill because our area is less fill than what the permit saved have to go through to fill closer to the river for ADA requirements. So some of the things we're trying to do are technically things required anyway. We really have to do them. So that's why we're asking for a limited scope on a 4 or 5 year plan, because we're really not trying to fill the entire lake. We're just trying to get everything on a 3-to-1 slope and kind of basically just fulfill the original SUP requirements. That's what we're trying to do.
Chris, I have a question for you, sir. Relative to the filling of the edges of that lake to get back to the slope, does it require any federal permits to do that?
So the whole mine site's under a federal permit, and then we have an MPDS, which is a federal water quality permit, and they do an inspection, I believe, once a quarter, I believe.
So have they been informed of your intent of what to do relative to this work?
Well, from what I understand, we're actually, they're wanting us and requiring us to put the levee back. So part of the fill that we're trying to do is the levee in the rear that really should be a sealed lake. So yeah, they're definitely aware, and they stay aware.
So the answer to my question is yes, they are aware of your intent of what you're looking to do relative to this. Yes or no?
I'm not sure specifically. I really am not. I know, I guess the best way I can answer that is that the requirement to have the 3-to-1 slope and the levee repaired. So it's a requirement, so I'd assume they're aware of it since it's required. It's the best way I can answer it, honestly.
Have you also looked at, or have you floor then want to look at what the environmental impact is of the material that you are looking to use to fill back to the 31 slope.
The only questions that have come up, because we are limiting the scope of fill, is the asphalt. I know that we met with the Sierra Club and met with Protect Aquifer, and they had some concerns about the asphalt. And that's not anything we're stuck on. It's more just, we're not actually trying to get that. We prefer dirt. Is what we prefer. So the asphalt is something that they are concerned about, but under the state, it's allowed as construction fill without, a lot of, the best way to say it from my knowledge of it is the asphalt is not supposed to be a critical issue because it's oil based, not petroleum based or whatever. So I don't know, but the asphalt's not a deal breaker for me because I'm really just trying to get the slopes in, and we wouldn't get that much asphalt anyway. But the dirt and concrete, as long as it doesn't have rebar in it, and rubbings are all environmentally safe. It's an environmental product.
So would you be willing to exclude asphalt out of the fill material?
I've said that before. If that's an issue, sure, it's not a problem. We're glad to take it out. Yes, sir.
Next question is, has there been an environmental impact statement done as to the filling of it in its proximity to the Wolf River?
I think Jeffrey could speak to that, but when we filed the original SUP, this was all part of that original SUP, and all those studies were done then, and our requirement again is to put it on a 3-to-1 slope. So we're basically fulfilling the original intent of the SUP in those conditions, and the studies were done then. We have proposed to do a small wetlands restoration area, but the property was cleared of any wetlands before we started, so we're actually contributing back 3 or 4 acres of wetlands through this process of restoration that aren't required and weren't there when we started. So environmentally, actually, when we get done, it should environmentally be a better site. Wetlands restoration. But everything we're doing, I think Jeffrey can speak to it, is still in the intent of the original SUP as far as just putting the slopes back, and all those studies were done when we acquired that. I was confused about the date. I had several people that were in favor of it, but I thought it was the 26th. So.
Oh, yeah.
I apologize. I've spoke to ProSite, who has 15 acres, spoke to Trent Smith, who owns the mulch yard next door, and we actually, coordinate with each other, and they're the 2 largest owners right next door to us, and they're in a similar business, and of course they have no complaints at all. They're just 30 acres, 40 acres in total, just my adjacent neighbors that are in favor.
All right, thank you, sir. We're going to move to the opposition. I have a card from Mr. Richards and Mr. Tyner. Come up and give and just so you know, you have a total of 10 minutes. Give your name and address for the record for me.
My name is Todd Tigner.
Tigner, sorry.
Tigner, yes. And I am principal of Diversified Builders at 5294 Crestview,
Okay.
which is...
Let me just swear you in real quick. You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Absolutely.
All right, go ahead, Mr. Tigner.
This first photograph indicates my property is... That curve is Crestview, or is Thomas. Crestview continues on. Now, Crestview continues straight. To the left is the subject's property. Thomas Road begins into the curve, and my property is right below this photograph.
No, you can't. We can't talk right now. You've got to sit down.
And this photograph was taken back in February, right around the time that there was a stop work order placed on this property by code enforcement. He's been operating under the original SUP since the 1980s. There has been no amendments other than what was spoken of in the introduction. There has been no environmental testing this date, and I'll move forward to give you my concerns. What we have dealt with, I moved in here a year ago last Christmas in December, a week before December. And the entire time to this point, up to the point of where he was issued a stop work order from code enforcement, constantly, as you can see, the conditions of the roads were horrible. I spoke to Mr. Richards at least 24 different times. He even came to my property, promised he would keep it clean, promised he would do the right thing, but never would. When that road dries up, it becomes a big dust pile. And it covers our vehicles, it covers our equipment. We can't even use our paint booth inside the shop to paint our cabinetry and things of that nature. And just backing up for a moment, I want to give you a little bit of history that'll lend some credibility to what I'm saying about me. I'm a 40-year general contractor. I have been an expert witness in several occasions in the courts and am, as of now, in some other cases on these types of situations and other types of situations, but not limited to. And if you'll move forward, my main one concern is the fact that Mr. Pierce will not cooperate in for consideration to his neighbors. Again and again and again and again, he would refuse. The next photo, if you would go, was the entrance, one more, at his property to the left. And you can see the condition of the street. It stayed that way. There's piles of dirt on each side of the street, so it can't even drain properly, because in time, they run a bulldozer down and push the dirt on both sides of the street. And this is a photo that was taken when the stop work order was issued. And these are aerial photographs from a drone. Please. Now this is Crestview to the right. As you can see, to the left is Mr. Pierce's father's property. I'm not even certain, I can't find his name on any documents. All of the documents are in his father's name. So, next picture, please. Now this is today. Since there was a stop work order placed on Mr. Pierce over 2.5 months ago by code enforcement, Mr. Pierce has dumped 300 to 500 loads and disobeyed the stop work order completely to cover up a lot of the debris that he has put in there that is toxic. And if you'll continue with the photographs, I'll explain further. This is just an aerial photograph showing a pile of debris. If you'll continue. And this pile of debris, if you look, it's close to that tower. And if you go to the next photograph, here are some, down to the lower part of this photograph is asphalt shingles, there's insulation, there's paint, there's oil that you can continue. Next ones. This is the pile of debris that he's pushed into the lake, as you will have it. And in it, I have found oil, I have found insulation, sheetrock, insulation, roofing materials, garbage, paint cans, and I confronted him, Mr. Pierce, about the garbage and the debris that he was putting into this, and he told me that that was his son that did that. He didn't know he was doing it, but then again, it continued, and it didn't stop. And these are all photographs of when the stop order was issued. If you keep going, and in it, right there is insulation, more roofing material, some old plaster, and I did a lead test on one of the pieces of plaster that were in that pile, and it was positive for lead paint. Just garbage debris. More.
You got about 3.5
Yep.
total
Okay.
minutes left.
And this is where he has covered it up after the stop work order was placed on the property. And even today, I counted 13 trucks that came in there today. And that's an aerial photograph of when the stop order was placed. And that was, you've seen the one that was taken today where he's got it, a lot of that debris that he didn't want anybody to see covered. The next one. Just another aerial, go, next one. Now you can see how much of that he has covered up with loads of dirt. And the St. Jude project, there was this is, prior to his stop work order, which he was not supposed to be filling this in according to the SUP 3413. It was strictly for mining. There was supposed to be levees built. They're not built properly. If you look back there, this was taken just a couple months ago, or a month ago, and you can see it has overflowed into the Wolf River. Oh, another one. There is the Wolf River in the background. There is Mr. Pierce's property, and all of that debris flowed into the Wolf River. And the conclusions on A4, 5, 6, and
10.5 total left. Just
Okay,
so you know, and you
well-
have somebody else to speak.
my issues are, one, his disregard for the neighbors. And he is not, number two is the toxic material that's in there. Number three is no matter what provisions you put on this, if somebody's not watching Mr. Pierce constantly, you're not going to know what gets put in there. And last but not least, I am so certain of it that all of that material that he's put in there is for is for a landfill only. And I'm so certain of it that if it was dug up, it would need to be removed and put into an appropriate landfill for the appropriate material. And I'm so certain of what I'm testifying to that if I was wrong, I would pay myself to have it dug up.
Let's get ready to go.
And I would be happy to answer any questions that you guys have.
Thank you very much, Mr. Tigger. Richard, you want to say something real quick? We have very little time, so.
I'll be fast. Jonathan Richards.
Yeah. Say your name and address for the record.
Jonathan Richards, 5290 Crestview Drive.
Tell the truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do.
Okay, go ahead, sir.
I bought that property on 5290 and 5294 in 2010 from Don Huckabee. And he started dumping, and all the 18-wheeler trucks started coming in, which is about 2.5 to 3 years ago. They were running somewhere 500 to 700 a day. Okay, we've asked him, all of our neighbors, the Brico, which is adjacent to the 5294, and actually the gentleman that he spoke of said it approved it. That was not true. I spoke with him on Monday of this week, and he indicated that he did not like the fact there was that many vehicles coming in and dumping all the dirt in that area. So we understand where it's at today with the photos, but there's no upkeep. We've asked him to clean the streets. He's knocked down utility poles. There's been 3 separate times where live wires have been bouncing on the ground because the guys hit utility lines coming out of that street. And that has been repaired 3 times. So there was a pole put up and it worked for about a month. So That's really all I got to say. You can see the photos. He's not going to change. If you approve this, it's just going to get worse. Mr. Tigner is a great renter from us, and he's willing to move out. And when it hits our pocketbook and we lose renters out of this, I have a 5-year potential lease with this guy. So I do not want this to be approved, my opinion.
I can rebut some of that or all of it.
Well, yeah, I'll do my best. I was going to say earlier, and I sent the records down to Chip Saliva and explained to Chip, even when the code enforcement guys came out there and they issued the stop work order, I asked Mr. Tigner not to fly a drone on my property, and I notified Chip, and even seen the TCA code where it's legal to be in possession of those documents, to share them. They're not able to be used. It's a Class B misdemeanor for him to be showing these right now. He's flying a drone for surveillance over my property without permission. It's Class B misdemeanor. That's the first thing. I've asked him several times just not to do that. And when the code came out with the stop work order, I had the code officers talk to him and say, look, because I wanted to do the right thing. I said, you've notified them. I'll deal with code, I'll deal with environmental court, I'll deal with OP, we'll get everything fixed, we want to do the right thing. The gentleman behind me said, can you go back to the site plan real fast, just on the staff report, please? I can say that I can agree with some of the things that the aerial photo, please, that Mr. Tigner said. There are some real issues. Or go to the aerial photo that shows the two bodies. But there you go, perfect. So he made a comment, the owner of the property made a comment that he bought in 2010. The property to the right that's not the subject property, both of those properties are still under state and federal mining permits, and all the trucks coming in and out for the last 30 years have come out of these two properties, and the dumping that's incurred has come out of those properties. I did not take the first bit of material until August or September of last year, when I took the St. Jude dirt from the undercut from Browning. Now, this is the first thing I've ever dumped in there. Was just within the last year. So all the trucks that they've been dealing with and they're talking about are trucks have been going since the 70s, and we're within their right. Can we go back to some of his pictures? Because he talked about the berm. The neighbor to the north, the landscape guy, put that berm in there. I haven't built that up. I've actually sent several emails. That berm to the right has nothing to do with me. I've actually gone over on that side and graded. Where all that mud is right there, that's the exit to the property to the left of me. That's not even my property. It's got a legal photo of, first off. Second off, that area right there, it looks real muddy. That's a city street. I've spoken to Bill Morrison, Berlin Boyd. I've talked to everybody and their brother. I can show you emails going back 4 years. That is a gravel street. It's gravel. There is no asphalt there. Have you been to the site? That a gravel street? There's no asphalt? You drove over it. There's like no asphalt there, and I've been petitioning for 2 years. I have tenants within the street that bounce through there. It's very difficult to maintain that area. You can't put a road grader on it, you can't put a sweeper on it because it's gravel. Is that right?
I don't remember what it was made of. I just remember the street was in horrible condition.
But the asphalt's in horrible condition.
Right.
That's all I'm saying. It's not. But I can tell you also that when I got served my stop work order, I called the next door neighbor and I said, I got a stop work order. You should stop because there is an issue with the SUP that didn't get extended to your property, and that's the operator that did all the work. He stopped at the same time. We went back after the stop work order and went to environmental court, talked to OPD, and all we did was we moved the entire operation all the way back to the SUP area because he was right. That area up there, for some reason, the SUP didn't get extended. And the reason why he still has pictures of that is we have not touched anything up there until we find out where we are. But I've not pushed any of that material off in the lake, and the wood is going to be tub ground. It's not going to get pushed in the lake. And when we were snow skiing with my family, because we were new to this, and that's my fault, and I agree 100%. When we were out, somebody went through the gate because they heard there was a dump and started dumping. And I've left it all there until we get this resolved. But I can assure you that when we put the stop work order, anything outside that SUP area, we have not touched it. We've left it right there, haven't moved it, hadn't tried to hide anything, cover anything up. And as he showed, and that's why we got an MPDS on it, we have to put that levee in the back to seal the lake from coming back and forth. So all the wood that's in the picture to be tub grind, I'm more than happy to get dumpsters and clean up the small amount of material that's up there in the stop work area. We're trying to do this thing right, but it is an industrial area. The trucks have been coming and going for 30 years, since the 70s. This is not a new thing. And from what I understand, the city is coming out and paving that entire street in June. And then our operations are not even going to be up here by his business. We're going all the way to the very east end of the road. And I wished he would, testify truthfully that since the stop work order, there's not been an ounce of mud. That whole street area is much cleaner. But when I talk to the road department, they're going to come out there, they're going to grade those shoulders down, get the drainage fixed. Nothing to do with me. That's years of sediment built up from all of the trucks coming from all the different businesses around there. It's just really a lack of maintenance. But I've been trying to assist in getting that reclamated, and from what I understand now, it's actually going to get fixed in June. They're going to regrade all those shoulders. Should be in good shape. So what I'm trying to say is I can't disagree with everything he says, because there is definitely some material up there that was not supposed to be put there, and it happened over a 10-day period when I was out of town, but I've left it. I haven't pushed it off in the water. But the rest of it, the street, that street is not in that condition now. It's not dirty. It's not dusty. The part that's muddy right there is the exit for a whole different property and a whole different operation. Only intend on doing the right thing and getting our slopes in and getting out of there. And it should be a lot better than it was. But those images, I've asked him nicely not to do it, because this class, I spoke to the DA, I've spoke to OPD, I spoke to code. It is a Class B misdemeanor for him to take those images and to share them. And I just asked him not to do that. It's because it's illegal. But they actually there now. So it's okay, because some of this stuff is relevant to the conversation. Yeah. That's all I have, unless y'all have any questions. Yes.
Mr. Pierce, I have a question for you.
Yes, sir.
Are you the official owner?
My father.
Let me clarify that.
Yes.
What I mean by official owner is you standing there in the flesh and your name signed on the dotted line as the property owner. Yes or no?
The actual property does.
Yes or no, sir, please. You're not. Is that correct?
That's correct.
My second question. Have you violated code enforcement stop work order at all? Yes or no?
No.
Chairman, correct me if I'm out of line, but I'd like to hear from Cindy Reeves at SR relative to their aspect of the site plan for this project, since they are the engineer of record and the representative. Can we do that?
We'll give your name and address for the.
Cindy Reeves, SR Consulting, 5909 Shelby Oaks Drive, Suite 200. I do.
Ms. Reeves.
Yes,
this
Mr. Kane.
particular project here, this is a site plan that has your firm's logo on it. Can you tell me what your scope of work was relative to this? Is it you developed this remediation plan for this project? Is this a drafting exercise, or are you actually, and your representation here today, since we hadn't heard from you, is in what specific capacity?
The remediation plan that was submitted with our application is the same remediation plan that was filed with the mining permit with the state of Tennessee. So we took their plan and made it into a site plan. So that is.
I'm sorry, took whose plan?
This is Farrell's plan. Farrell owns the property next door, and they use their property for the mining also, but they use it for their own purposes. Theirs is not open to the public. It's only open to them.
So you're referencing Farrell Paving?
I filed both applications, and yes, I will be representing Farrell also.
Farrell Paving.
Farrell Paving. But okay. Farrell's is a totally different operation than what Scott's is, and I understand Farrell's is not open to the public. It is only open to Farrell Paving, Metro Materials, you know, their companies. It's only open for them. It's not open to the public.
So what you're telling me is this site plan here for remediation is not specific to this site done by your firm, is that correct?
This,
Yes or no?
this site plan is specific to this site done by Farrell's firm, by Farrell's survey.
That wasn't my question. My question to you is this site plan for remediation for this property that we are here today on, is it specific to this site and done by your firm? Yes or no?
It is specific to the site. It was not done by my firm.
Thank you.
Model is what you're saying.
Ma'am?
Farrell's plan was the model is what you're saying.
No, ma'am. It's site specific. This is the plan that was filed with the state of Tennessee for their mining permit. And their surveyor, they did the remediation plan for the entire project for both sites.
And when was that plan done?
1980.
What you're telling me is this plan was done in 1980 and there's been constant mining going on at this operation from 1980 up until whenever it stopped. So this remediation plan can't be specific to this particular site because the site conditions have changed. Is that correct?
And I don't believe that it's 1980, excuse me.
I would
Let's say 19, let's say 2000.
Okay, June 30th of 2010. Here's the plan.
So that
For Metro
plan was done in
Materials.
2010.
Yes, sir. June
And
30th, 2010.
And when, do you know when mining operations stopped at this particular site?
I do not.
Can your client answer that question?
2015, I believe.
So 5 years of mining has taken place since this particular plan has been done for remediation. Yes or no? Okay. I'm saying that this plan was done in 2010 for remediation of this property. But 5 years of mining operation has taken place on the property since the remediation plan was done. Is that correct? Yes or no?
Mining stopped 5 years ago.
So
They mined both parcels. They were the ones that mined everything.
I just want to know a yes or no answer to that.
Yes, sir.
So mining stopped when?
2015, I believe.
And the plan was done in 2010. Thank you.
Yes. Earlier when you were doing a presentation, you were saying that the step backs were required by the state.
It's the remediation. So when they mine with the dredge and you leave steep banks. And what they want for water quality and for safety is they want a 3-to-1 slope put back as part of the remediation on all the banks. That's really what we're attempting to do, is just put the remediation in. There's just that's correct. So it's just remediation, pretty much what we're doing.
Yes, but my question is, so for how long have you been out of compliance with the steps?
So on the slopes, I think Cindy can speak to it. There's no time frame with the state for the remediation. It can be ongoing forever. The only issue of compliance that ever came up, because the whole mining operation operated under a state and federal permit. We got issued fee permit with the city, but when the mining operator continued on our property and continued over on their property, this has nothing to do with me again, the SUP permit didn't get extended. They extended the state and federal permits. That's what's caused all this. Is I acted under the understanding that we had SUP permits extended also, but under remediation for the state, it's ongoing indefinitely. But that's not our plan. We want to get it done.
Mr. Chairman, can I ask to have this held for 1 month so that we can get actual dates that Mr. Jackson is asking for, specifics, and get copies of all the active permits for the board to be able to look at? Because I think there's a lot of questions, there's a lot of confusion, and I can probably bring Mr. Farrell his application in at the same time next month, and then that way we can hear the difference between the two operations and have both cases heard next month.
If they're going to do that. I would also like you to bring the SUP original permit.
I actually have that.
I'd like to make sure that OPD gets a copy of it so we as the
OPD
board-
has it.
And also the requirements specifically of compliance of that SUP.
Yes, sir.
And then when you come back to talk to us, can you bring all the records of compliances or at least a summary of that so we can understand what has been done?
Yes, sir. We'll definitely do that. I think it would be more clear of what the board is actually voting on. I want the board to be comfortable what they're voting on. I want them to have all the facts. Okay. It's very confusing, especially with the two operations being so different.
I have a question or request for staff. I was just kind of noting here, and then are we able to, okay, the city is supposed to be graveling the roads, is that correct? And do we know that for sure?
As far as the
verify
repaving
that?
of the road, the only thing I've had was Mr. Pierce.
But he said that the city was supposed to be doing it?
Yes, that's what he
So-
stated.
Can we trust but verify that one?
Yes, we can.
As well as the drainage situation? And also, what is the redress? I think that's some of the concern here. If the applicant isn't in compliance with the conditions, do they have redress? What is that? And how would that work?
So as currently proposed, it was condition 7. Essentially, that the Office of Planning and Development may file a show cause hearing for failure to comply with any singular condition of approval or any other city or county ordinance. And that would come before this body.
This is the first condition, right? Hold on.
Condition number
Let's do
7.
that. Oh, okay, I'm on the wrong, okay. Okay, so, and what they have to do, the opposition here, is just report non-compliance.
Right. Essentially, I think almost all of the other conditions basically have dates applied to them of when they need to be completed by, and they're supposed to keep us informed.
Thank you.
Mr. Jackson?
Yes, ma'am.
The original SUP was on page 19 of the staff report and also an amendment on page 15.
That's all of the SUP?
I think so. We'll make sure that it is. It goes from page 19 to page
22.
22.
Thank you.
Actually, it goes to page 27.
Hear from the opposition. Mr. Reeves, you said there was an active MPDES, the current site.
Yes, sir. And we'll bring that also, and Farrell filed for that. Metro Materials did, which is owned by Farrell. That way Farrell can tell you what permits he's filed for, what they were for, what documents were given with them, and hopefully create a lot less confusion than we've had today.
Thank you.
Okay. And I do think that the roads are being improved by the city very, very soon.
Again, is there any, do I have people on the board who want to hear any more? All right, sir, we have to vote to hear anything else.
Thank you.
Is there a motion to hold this case for 30 days? Is there any discussion of that hold? have more information than less. I will tell the applicant that the stop work order is still in place. Nothing's happened, so we're just kind of having to kick the can on this one to get more information. Sir, you cannot speak. You cannot speak. It's not how we operate according to rules. I'm sorry. And so with that, if you would like... any opposed? We have a 30-day hold on this. See y'all next month. Mr. Whitehead, will you call the next case for us?